Thank you for the opportunity to present today. My name is Niall. I'm a lecturer in MTU Kerry and PhD student in the University of Limerick. I would like to thank my supervisors Dr. Philip Kearney, Dr. Ian Sherwin and Dr. Mark Lyons for assisting me with this research. The title of my presentation is An Exploration of High-Performance Team Sport Coaches' Practice Activities Across the Season, a Mixed Methods Case Study Approach. The coaching environment is the primary teaching and learning medium for the development of players' technical and tactical skills. However, there is limited understanding of the specific practice structures and pedagogies coaches use across a range of sports, contexts, and phases of the season. Thus, the aims of this research are: investigate the selection and sequencing of practice activities used by high-performance Gaelic football coaches, and explore the rationale underlying the selection and sequencing of practice activity. A mixed methods case study approach was used to explore beyond the what and how of coaching to examine the underlying rationale that guides practice design across the season. The current study aims to explore high-performance team sport coaches' exemplary knowledge and provide readers with an opportunity to experience and draw comparisons with themselves and contexts with which they are familiar. Importantly, the intention was not to generalise to a wider population, but to provide coaches with stimulus for reflection in their own contexts and recognise when a case aligns with their own experiences. 2 high-performance Gaelic football coaches who are qualified PE teachers participated in a season-long study. A time-use analysis undertaken over 52 sessions was combined with pre-observation and post-observation semi-structured interviews, as well as 3 stimulated recall interviews to provide a rich insight into their practice design and rationale. To assess the structure of the coaching session, an adapted version of coding instruments used by Ford et al. 2010, O'Connor et al. 2018, and Kinnerk et al. 2020 was applied. Firstly, sessions were analysed for the proportion of time spent in and sequencing of training form activities, playing form activities, interpersonal interactions, and inactivity. Coaching sessions are characterised by periods of inactivity, whereby a coach intervenes to address the players. Although the players may not be physically active, they are still engaged in other activities such as instruction, questioning, reflection, and dialogue. As a result, activity introduction, coach-player huddle, and freezing position were separated from inactivity to reflect the various constructivist pedagogies a coach utilises within practice sessions and provide insight into the coach's pedagogical approaches. Within the design and analysis of this research, we've discussed a lot about what should be included within interpersonal interactions, and even what to call this. So as part of presentation feedback, I'd welcome comments on this from anyone who's undertaking similar research. Secondly, the sequencing of practice activities was also recorded. Session plans and follow-up communication with the coach, if necessary, was used to identify activities that were part of the warm-up. Results of the time use analysis showed the youth coach and senior coach spend 21% and 27% of coaching session time in training form respectively, 45% of coaching session time in playing form each, although the youth coach used relatively more full-sided games and the senior coach more condition games. 24% and 20% of coaching session time in interpersonal interactions respectively, 10% and 8% of coaching session time in inactivity respectively. It is impossible within the limits of this presentation to discuss all aspects of the coach's complex and holistic on-field practice. However, the time use analysis shows that the coaches use a broad range of activities. Fitness, condition games and full-sided games are the primary activities utilised, while drills, skills in isolation, applied skills, small-sided games and phase of play are utilised as supplementary activities. Previous research has used different coding systems, so direct comparisons are difficult, but the primary reliance on playing form is consistent with more recent research in varying domains. The current figure shows the sequencing of activities post-warm-ups. Condition games and drills were the most used activities post-warm-ups, although drills, fitness and skills in isolation were the most used activities in warm-ups. The youth coach and senior coach's first activity post-warm-up is a playing form activity 73% and 68% of the time respectively. While the youth coach and senior coach's second activity post-warm-up is a playing form activity 80% and 91% of the time respectively. Full-sided games and fitness are the most often used final activity, while the youth coach and senior coach's final activity post-warm-up is a playing form activity 53% and 55% of the time respectively. Other notable features of sequencing include that conditioned games are most often followed by full-sided games, and drills are most often followed by applied skills. Presenting and analysing the sequence of activities is a challenge, and again, I particularly welcome feedback and comments from anyone with experience of this. The slides that follow are necessarily selective and briefly discuss the quality of the data and findings around the selection of practice activity. Coach's selection of practice activity is driven by facilitating player learning in a time-constrained environment. The senior coach says, players need to have a purpose every moment they're here, otherwise you're wasting time. The youth coach says, players constantly need to be learning, need to be making use of time. The coaches believe that this is best developed by providing challenging and highly representative playing form activities in a supportive environment. The senior coach says you put a player in a place where it's ugly and messy, but that's where you learn. They have to understand that you're backing and you're supporting them to learn. Learning, we all know that learning is non-linear, and we have to understand that you've got to create messy places for people to learn. In relation to highly representative activities, coaches value full-sided games for team selection and also to assess learning. The youth coach says, when you see it coming out in a full-sided game or not, that's like my homework, that's like my test, where I can say, right, yeah, we are good to move on and layer up another bit, or they're getting parts of it, or certain fellas are getting parts of it. Findings also reveal that coaches use representative practice activities such as condition games to guide behaviour and expose players to tactical problems and mimic opposition characteristics. Coaches' selection and sequencing of practice activities are guided by an understanding of learning theories, where they demonstrate certain pedagogical principles from games-based approaches and ecological dynamics, such as exaggeration, tactical complexity, and representative learning design. In relation to exaggeration, the senior coach says, so this game is 80 metres long and we took the sidelines in 10 each side, which forces the players into situations where they don't have time or space on the ball, where it's quite condensed. There's going to be a lot of contact, there's going to be a lot of boys having to make decisions to move the ball out of trouble and not getting caught in possession, because again, we're getting ready for what we may face at the weekend. In relation to tactical complexity, senior coach says, you're conditioning the mind as much as conditioning the body. Load on too early and they're not going to get it. And then it becomes, you've lost the value of it. Sometimes you have something really good that you want to do, but if you throw it there too early, it's lost the value. So sometimes you've got to build it in gradually. However, reflecting the complex and messy realities of coaching pedagogy, and despite utilising a lower proportion, coaches value the selective use of training form activities, which may challenge the simplistic assumptions that one kind of activity is inherently better than the other. Coaches value the importance of fitness for injury prevention and psychological focus. In relation to psychological focus, the senior coach says, there's no harm from the field of grind, that they, in the end, they still have in the tank to finish off with some hard runs. So again, psychologically, it will reinforce that belief that they're going to be ready. Coaches also value the selective use of drills when needed for confidence, psychological focus, and to develop understanding. Notably, drills are being used for other reasons than the drill technique. For example, in relation to psychological focus, the senior coach says, it sets a sort of focus that this is how the session is going to run. I find that most of my sessions will start off with something very collective. I use it to create that atmosphere, to create that unity at the start of a session. The more you can do something close together and small tight areas, that all helps to create that in my mind. In relation to understanding, the youth coach says, I think you need an element of closed drills for the first 2 or 3 minutes, so they can actually get into the flow of it, practice the skill of it, like a diagonal ball to these guys. They've never opened their eyes. In conclusion, this Mixed Methods season-long study provides a nuanced understanding of coaches' practice in a high-performance team sports context, which has received little attention in the literature. Whilst coaches believe that player learning is best developed through challenging and highly representative playing form activities, they also value more selective use of training form activities, for a number of reasons including psychological readiness. Coaches' selection and sequencing of practice activities was guided by an understanding consistent with core principles of learning theories, leading to a point of reflection as to what extent are coaches meeting these core principles throughout their coach development. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I look forward to your feedback, particularly in relation to the presentation of sequencing data and the use of interpersonal interactions. I would be happy to connect with anyone through my email, niall.a.o'mahony@ul.ie. Thank you.